dee 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 dee. No matter if you live now far or near, no matter what your weakness or your strength, there is not one alive we count outside, made deeper joy for all, now come at length, made deeper joy for all, now come at length. Let none among us lie or self-deceive, not cultivate a hatred all or part. May never one of us live by our age, nor wish another injury of heart, nor wish another injury of heart. Just as the goodly mother will protect her children e'en at risk of her own life, so may we nurture an old mindfulness, a boundless heart beyond all fear and strife, a boundless heart beyond all fear and strife.
So this morning, I too welcome you, and I have a little story to share. It goes like this. In the winter of 1970, a young American Peace Corps volunteer was seen pushing his bicycle along a dusty cart track under the empty blue sky in the flatlands of southern Nepal. It was his day off from working as a greenhorn field geologist assigned to a well drilling project, drilling wells throughout this region, Nepal's borderlands with India. The monsoon rains had let up months before, so the rice paddies were now dry and barren, showing only the stubble from the last harvest. The cart track was filled with several inches of finely powdered soil, produced by the daily passage of the farmers' wooden wheeled carts. The dust-filled track not being conducive to actually riding a bike, our greenhorn was pushing his bicycle along mile after mile. The trek was inspired by curiosity to visit a pilgrimage site several miles distant. Some hours later, he did finally arrive at a nondescript crossroads marked only by a handful of tea stalls and scattered rickshaws. From the crossroads some distance away, one could see a grove surrounded by a collection of brick buildings, an ancient reflecting pool over which rose an enormous ancient peepal tree. The place was known by the name Lumbini and was famous for being the birthplace of the Shakyan prince, Gautama, who would one day become the Buddha. And our walking bicycle pusher, you may now have guessed by now, was me. And in 1970, Lumbini remained a sleepy backwater, not the World Heritage Site it is today, having endured indescribable change. On that day, 50 years ago, tired and parched by my long walk, I ducked into a tea stall for the first order of business, chai and samosa. Then I set out to explore that place and see what I might see, without the slightest idea what that might be. Who could have guessed the surprises to be found? The stunning beauty of the ancient reflecting pool beneath the spreading limbs of that timeless, gigantic tree. An Ashokan pillar left by the Emperor Ashoka when he passed this way 2,000 years ago. To pay homage to the Buddha, and left the pillar to memorialize his pilgrimage to this place a couple hundred years after the Buddha. And among the nondescript low brick buildings, a hostel for pilgrims in the Tibetan Vihara. And behind that Vihara, a little garden surrounded by a beautiful hedge, a hedge of honeysuckle, no less. Though little else was in bloom in that season of winter to early spring, the honeysuckle hedge was, releasing its surprise sweetness into that still air of early spring. And somewhere along that hedge was a humble little painted sign identifying the garden as Buddha's Pleasure Garden. I smile still at the thought of reading that sign. At that time, I knew very little about the Buddha or Buddhism. So this was my unlikely, but perhaps totally appropriate introduction to Buddha Dharma, finding myself within the Buddha's Pleasure Garden. How else should the unwitting wanderer-seeker be invited onto the path, but to find himself welcome and held in the quiet, sweet ambiance of such a garden in the early spring, when all life seemed to be on pause, waiting for the rains to come.
Now is the time for joys and sorrows. We are a community that holds one another in our celebrations and in our pain. Please share your joys and sorrows in the chat box in Zoom or in the comments section if you're with us on YouTube. Know that whatever your heart is holding today, we are with you. Okay. We hold these and all the biggest feelings of our hearts together. Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. If you would like to give to this morning's offering, you can give online at canandaiguauu.org/connect or by mailing a check to the church. In either case, note that you'd like your gift to go toward the Sunday offering, and we'll share a quarter of it with our monthly service partner, which is Happy Tales Shelter, part of Ontario County Humane Society. And now it's time for Scobie.
Good morning again. I first feel like I need to offer a minor apology. The sermon title some time ago that I chose included the intention to include a racial justice piece. It's become clear to me that I'm not yet able to speak to this. But let me just say that much like my little trek to the pilgrimage site I just described, to Lumbini, in the vignette, I feel like the events of this spring and summer in particular, the death of George Floyd, have been an awakening moment, opening my heart. And I want to examine my own blind spots and intend to pursue that pilgrim journey too. So, first steps. But coming back to this moment, this morning, it's our intention to try a little experiment, and that begins with sharing joy. And amidst all the sorrow and grief of this time and all the loss, it feels particularly important to me and that we take a moment to not forget that which has given us joy this year, especially this beautiful summer. And so we're going to attempt to break out in little rooms of about 3 people per room and have a sharing time. And Pat will do that by the magic of touching her Zoom buttons, and we'll allow about 3 minutes apiece for each person to recollect that which has touched your heart this summer and nurtured you in the midst of all the losses. And I really encourage the others in your room to listen deeply to what comes towards you in the words of the others and take that in. Let it touch you. Let it touch you deeply. And we'll do that, and then we will come back together in about 10 minutes, and I will lead us in a guided meditation that incorporates the experience that you've had in your breakout groups. So Pat will ring a little bell at every 3-minute interval so that people know they should switch to the next person. Try not to do crosstalk. This is not a conversation. It's an opportunity for you to check in deeply with what has touched you in the last couple months and speak to that and be heard. And so I trust you to use this wisely and listen deeply to your cohorts. And, you know, it's possible, it's happened to me sometimes, that I get dropped by Zoom. If that happens to you or to somebody in your group, be patient let that resolve itself and come back and reorient and continue. So take it away, Pat. At least in my group, we could have shared a lot more, but the little we were able to do really came through to me. And so I thank you all for joining in that storytelling moment. And now what I'd like to do is lead us in a guided meditation. So to start, I'd like you all to take a moment to get comfortable, for starters. Find yourself sitting or lying down, whatever serves you, to really feel supported and relaxed in this moment. And if possible, somewhat upright and awake too. And I would encourage you to close your eyes, perhaps. Anything that enables you to drop in more deeply to your body sensate experience. And for starters, to just feel the support of your body resting on a chair or a cushion or a bed, wherever you may be. The support of the earth, as if you were held in the lap of the earth. And feel that nurturing energy rise up into your body. Take a moment to really drop in and feel that experience. And then by moment to moment, tune in to the rhythm of your breath. The rise and fall of your breath coming and going. Just like the waves rising and falling along the shoreline. Let your attention just ride the waves of that natural breath. And no doubt, thoughts will come and go. Let your thoughts be just like the sand of that beach, gently bathed by the rise and fall of the water, washing each grain of sand. Let the thoughts be absorbed into that motion. And now I would encourage you to let in the gladness you just experienced in sharing with others. Your own moments of joy, and also what you've heard from others being glad for their joy as well. Let that current of joy that's been shared join with the rhythm of your breath, the intimacy of the breath rising and falling like two rivers coming together. The current of the rise and fall of your breathing, and the joy, the joyful moments we've just expressed and shared with each other. And I really want to give you a couple moments to tune into that and feel it as a felt sense in your body. You may notice that your body settles a little more. Maybe settles and even spreads out a little more. And that natural rhythm of your breath slows somewhat. Just allow that to happen. Let your boundaries, your physical boundaries too, become a little more permeable. And the joy that fills you spread out into every pore of your body. And even seep out into the air around you. We are, of course, not as defined as we sometimes imagine ourselves to be by our physical body. And we can be touched by the joy of others. And in turn, touch others with what we share. If you can experience that in this moment. The sense of communal love permeating the atmosphere of this moment. Notice how that feels. It's very important to notice how that feels as a bodily felt sense. you may notice that it actually feels physically uplifting. Let that felt sense nurture you. Let it be a balm in these times of loss and difficulty and separation. Know that we are not alone. And that it's possible to feel this balm of connectedness as a resource.
Dave?
Oops.
Andrew?
You may now wish to let in some of the sorrow and grief of loss during this time, and let it too be bathed by the balm of gladness and love that you experience as a felt sense. These days, interestingly for myself, I have found it impossible to not to think about love without including the memory of George Floyd. I am eternally touched by his presence at this time. And that feels good and cathartic. And it brings up emotion inevitably. But I feel like he's going to be with me forever. And I'm glad for that. So if you too find yourself feeling emotion, be glad for that. It's a sign of our inevitable connectedness. So I'll give you another moment or two to really rest in that place of feeling the current of love. And then we'll come back together. Another little poem, this one by Sakito Kaizen. Within all light is darkness, but explained it cannot be by darkness that one-sided is alone. In darkness there is light, but here again, by light one-sided, it is not explained. Light goes with darkness, as the sequence does of steps in walking. And now I'm going to sing a little song, which you're welcome to join me in. It's very simple, and I'll sing it 3 times. All things are impermanent. They arise and they pass away. To be in harmony with this truth brings great happiness. All things are impermanent. They arise and they pass away. To be in harmony with this truth brings great happiness. All things are impermanent. They arise and they pass away. To be in harmony with this truth brings great happiness.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
It's time to extinguish our chalice. I have to get the words up. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.